Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something, ladies, there's nothing quite like the moment a man sees you move on, not in anger or frustration, but peacefully, gracefully, and confidently. Oh, it's a game changer. You've walked away from the past and you're not looking back. And guess what? That's the moment that hits him harder than anything else. He starts to feel the weight of what he lost. And trust me, it's not something he can ignore. Now, picture this. He watches you living your life, flourishing without him, and suddenly the tables have turned. It's the kind of power he never saw coming. So why is it that when a woman moves on peacefully, it strikes at the core of a man's heart? Stick with me, because you're about to find out just how deep that hit goes. And trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. When a man sees that you've moved on peacefully, it's like a sudden, unexpected shock to his system. Throughout the relationship, there might have been moments where he took you for granted, assuming that you would always be there no matter what happened. There's a sense of security in that, an unspoken understanding that you were emotionally available, ready to work through whatever obstacles came your way. He might have believed that no matter how things played out, you'd always be the one to wait, to hold on to the hope that things could be fixed. But when he sees you move on without all that baggage, without the emotional turmoil or the drama, he's taken off guard. This moment, where you're seen peacefully walking into a new chapter of your life, is not something he can easily digest. It's not just that you've moved on, it's how you've done it. You're not crying over the past. You're not bitter or angry about the way things ended. You've found a way to move forward with grace, with strength, and with peace. You're not looking back, and that's a game changer. To him, it's almost as if you've risen above the situation, like you've managed to free yourself from the emotional shackles that held both of you. He thought perhaps that you'd be stuck, that you'd struggle to let go, that you'd still be waiting for him to come back, hoping for reconciliation. But instead, he sees you thriving, building your life, and finding joy again without needing his validation. That's the shock. It's not just that you've moved on. It's how you've done it so effortlessly, how you've carried on with your life without missing a beat. It forces him to look at himself and question his own emotional state. Suddenly, he's no longer the one in control of the situation. The power has shifted. It's one thing to see a person move on in anger or sadness. It's another to witness someone step into their life with peace and confidence, leaving everything behind without the emotional drama. That's what shakes him to his core. The truth is, seeing you move on peacefully forces him to reckon with his own emotions. It's not about him anymore. It's about you, your strength, and your ability to let go with dignity. The man might have been the one who walked away or caused the separation, but when he sees you happy and thriving, he's forced to face the reality that you no longer need him. That realization that you're okay without him, that you've healed and found peace, hits him in a way he never expected. It challenges everything he might have believed about the relationship, about your emotional attachment to him, and about his place in your life. There's also an element of pride that gets bruised. In many cases, a man might think that he's the one who has the power to control, the ability to decide how things go in a relationship. When you move on peacefully, it's like a silent statement. You don't need him to be happy. You don't need him to feel fulfilled. You've found your own sense of balance, your own happiness, and you're no longer tethered to the past. That's a tough pill for any man to swallow. But it's also a wake-up call. The shock he feels is an invitation to examine his own life, his own choices, and his own emotional journey. He can no longer hide behind excuses or place blame on the relationship. Watching you move on peacefully forces him to confront the truth, his actions, his decisions, and the way he handled the relationship. It's a mirror that reflects his own shortcomings, his own mistakes, and his own role in the end of what was once a shared life. And here's the thing, this shock doesn't go away quickly. It lingers. It's the kind of realization that stays with him, that follows him, because it disrupts his emotional equilibrium. It makes him rethink everything, the relationship, his actions, his role in your life, and the life you're now building without him. It's a powerful moment, one that he can't ignore, and it forces him to ask himself questions he might not have wanted to answer. The longer he watches you live your life without him, the more he starts to question if he missed something, if he could have done things differently, if he had the chance to go back in time. But by the time he processes this, it may be too late. The shock of seeing you move on peacefully becomes the first step in his own emotional awakening, whether he's ready for it or not. And that moment, that realization, is something that often stays with him far longer than he expects. When a man sees that you've moved on peacefully, the next thing that inevitably kicks in is insecurity. It's one thing to feel like you've lost someone, but it's another to see them thriving and living their best life without you. That peaceful transition you've made is a direct challenge to his own emotional stability. He starts to wonder, who is she with now? Is someone else filling the role he once had? That thought alone can make his stomach drop. Men don't always admit it, but insecurity plays a huge part in how they view relationships, especially when they feel like they've been replaced or forgotten. It's natural for him to question whether he was truly important to you, or whether you've moved on so effortlessly that maybe, just maybe, he was never as significant as he thought. The emotional security that once existed in the relationship suddenly crumbles when he sees you thriving, and in that moment, his sense of control begins to slip away. He thought he was the one who held the power in the relationship, or maybe even assumed you'd be the one struggling to cope without him. But seeing you move on without a hitch shatters that image. What makes it even harder to deal with is the way you've done it. You didn't move on in an emotional whirlwind, grasping at straws or showing bitterness. You didn't create chaos or drama. Instead, you move forward with dignity, grace, and a calm energy that screams strength. This calmness forces him to confront his own vulnerabilities and weaknesses. He might start wondering, is she better off without me? The thought that you could not only survive without him, but thrive without his involvement is enough to cause a deep sense of insecurity. He might begin comparing himself to the man you're now becoming, and that comparison, whether he's conscious of it or not, never feels good. Insecurity is often tied to fear. And the fear of being replaced is one of the most powerful emotional drivers a man faces in this situation. When he sees you moving on, it forces him to imagine a future where he's no longer the center of your world, where someone else is there for you in the ways he once was. This thought, this fear, is something men wrestle with in silence. While they may not express it directly, the fear of being forgotten or replaced can chip away at their confidence. He wonders, did she really love me? Or was I just someone to pass the time with? That kind of questioning makes him doubt everything. The relationship, his role in it, and whether he was as important to you as he thought. The insecurity also stems from the recognition that you don't need him to feel complete. He might have always assumed that you were emotionally dependent on him, that he was a central figure in your life. But now that he sees you living without him, he realizes you were never as emotionally reliant on him as he thought. You've got your own life, your own purpose, and you're doing just fine without him. This realization can cause him to feel like he's lost control, and that fear can manifest in a sense of personal inadequacy. He might feel like he's failed not just as a partner, but as a man capable of providing emotional fulfillment. Even if he doesn't say it, this fear of being replaced is often accompanied by a sense of urgency. He begins to wonder if you've already found someone else, someone who makes you feel good, someone who can meet the emotional needs he once struggled to fulfill. The comparison between him and the new people in your life brings him face to face with his own insecurities. It can make him feel like he's not enough, like he didn't do enough, and that perhaps what you're experiencing now without him is something he could never give you. It's not just about someone else taking his place. It's about the emotional void he feels when he realizes that you've healed and moved forward in a way that he hasn't. He's stuck in a place of insecurity and self-doubt while you've emerged stronger, more independent, and more in control of your life. This contrast stings. The emotional dependency he once took for granted is no longer present, and the realization that he wasn't as crucial as he thought can shake him to his core. For him, watching you move on peacefully creates a cascade of insecurities, making him doubt himself, his worth, and the role he played in your life. These feelings don't just vanish after a few moments. They linger, simmering under the surface, constantly reminding him that his place in your world has shifted, maybe even disappeared altogether. The quiet power you exude as you move on without him leaves him grappling with his own fears and vulnerabilities, forcing him to confront his insecurities in a way that's impossible to ignore. It's a painful reminder of how much he took you for granted and how difficult it can be to deal with the loss of someone who's emotionally independent, confident, and no longer needs him to feel whole. When a man sees you moving on peacefully, one of the most surprising feelings that begins to settle in is respect. It's not immediate and it's not always expressed in words, but deep down, there's an understanding that begins to form about your strength and your ability to gracefully move past the relationship. In many ways, it's one of the more unexpected reactions a man has when he sees you thriving after the breakup. Often, during the relationship, men may not fully appreciate the emotional resilience, the maturity, or the strength that you brought to the table. They may have been too wrapped up in their own issues or taken you for granted. But once they witness you moving on without bitterness, anger, or drama, it forces them to look at you through a new lens. The fact that you've let go, not out of spite or frustration, but out of a genuine desire to find peace and happiness, is something that demands respect. It signals emotional intelligence and self-awareness, qualities that are incredibly attractive, even to a man who may have once overlooked them. Watching you embrace your independence, no longer weighed down by the emotional burdens of the past, tells him that you are not the same person he knew in the relationship. It shows him that you have grown, that you've evolved into someone who no longer needs him or anyone to complete your happiness. There's also the realization that in letting go, you've shown more emotional maturity than he has. You've chosen peace over anger, growth over stagnation, and moving forward over being stuck in the past. This level of maturity can trigger a level of admiration. It might not be something he verbalizes, but it's there. He starts to recognize that while he may have been caught up in his own world, reacting emotionally or holding on to things he couldn't control, you've found the ability to move past it all with grace. You haven't let the breakup define you. Instead, you've taken it as a lesson and used it to fuel your personal growth. This kind of resilience is not only admirable, but also a reminder to him that he's been the one holding on to things while you've chosen to live free from that burden. It also forces him to acknowledge his own shortcomings. While you've been healing and growing, he may still be stuck in a cycle of regret, bitterness, or confusion. Seeing you step forward, unburdened and confident, is a silent challenge for him to step up, to do the same, and to confront the issues in his own life that he may have been ignoring. Your peaceful transition becomes an indirect reflection of his own emotional state or lack thereof. It serves as a reminder that while you've let go of the past, he might still be holding on to the very things that are keeping him from finding peace. In some cases, this respect may even translate into a level of guilt. He may begin to realize that he wasn't the partner you needed, that he didn't nurture the relationship in the way it deserved. Seeing you thriving without him forces him to confront the fact that he may not have been the man you thought he was, and that realization can be tough to swallow. It brings up questions of whether he failed you emotionally or missed the signs that you were no longer fulfilled. But despite any guilt that might arise, there's still a deeper layer of respect for how you've handled the situation. It's almost as though your peacefulness in moving on is the ultimate form of strength. He can't help but admire how you've managed to take the high road, handling everything with dignity, while he may have been stuck in a place of regret or self-pity. The respect he feels isn't always spoken out loud, but it is there in his actions. In some cases, it might manifest as a change in behavior. He might begin to take more responsibility for his own emotions, realizing that the way you've handled the breakup is a lesson in emotional maturity. Your strength may even motivate him to work on himself, to start letting go of his own emotional baggage, and to think about how he approaches relationships moving forward. For the man who may have been blind to your worth during the relationship, witnessing your peaceful transition to a new chapter forces him to confront the things he didn't appreciate about you when he had the chance. In a way, your peaceful move on is the ultimate form of self-respect, and that is something that, whether he admits it or not, commands respect from him. This respect is not just about you being strong or independent. It's about your ability to heal, to let go, and to not allow the breakup to define you. Your actions show him that you're not just surviving, you're thriving. That in and of itself is a powerful message to any man, especially one who may have taken your emotional presence for granted. And while he might not always acknowledge it outwardly deep down, there's a quiet admiration for the way you've carried yourself and the way you've handled the situation with dignity and strength. Your peace, your growth, and your ability to move forward peacefully all add up to a level of respect that he can't ignore. When a man sees that you've moved on peacefully, one of the most powerful realizations that often sets in is regret. It's almost as if he's faced with the cold reality that he might have taken something truly valuable for granted. The relationship, the time, the love you gave, he starts to reflect on all of it. And the more he sees you move forward happy, fulfilled, and at peace, the harder it becomes for him to escape the creeping sense of regret. It's a silent and subtle force that works its way into his thoughts long after the breakup. Regret is an incredibly powerful emotion, and for a man, seeing you happy and thriving without him forces him to look back and wonder if he did everything he could to keep the relationship intact. The ease with which you've moved on without the emotional turbulence or dramatic fallout can feel like a mirror reflecting all the ways he may have failed you as a partner. If he was the one who walked away or caused the breakup, that sense of regret might hit even harder. He might start asking himself if he made the right decision or if he let go of something that he now realizes he should have fought for. Seeing you living your life content and fulfilled without him brings those questions to the forefront of his mind. One of the most intense aspects of regret is the internalization of what if thoughts. He might wonder, what if I had been more supportive? What if I had listened better? What if I had shown more love? Those thoughts swirl in his mind when he realizes that you've moved on and are no longer holding space for him in your heart. The peace you found in letting go becomes a sharp reminder that he missed his opportunity to cherish the relationship while he had it. Your ability to heal, to regain your strength, and to continue living without him as a source of emotional validation makes him question his own actions. The regret isn't just about losing you, it's about his own role in the loss. For many men, the realization of regret doesn't come immediately. It can take time. At first, they might feel a sense of relief or even detachment after the breakup, thinking that moving on is the easiest way to move forward. But when they see you flourishing without them, that sense of freedom quickly turns into unease. Regret sets in when they start to grasp the reality of their actions. They begin to realize that they didn't appreciate you fully, didn't give the relationship the attention it deserved, or didn't understand the depth of what they had until it was gone. In that moment, he may feel as if he's lost something irreplaceable, and it's a painful awakening. The most challenging aspect of regret is its persistence. It doesn't fade quickly. The longer he watches you move forward with grace and confidence, the more it gnaws at him. Each time he sees you doing something for yourself, smiling, thriving without him, that regret digs deeper. He starts to compare his life to yours, seeing you happy while he's still stuck in the emotional web of the past. And no matter how hard he tries to mask it, that regret remains. It becomes a constant reminder of the opportunity he had and lets slip through his fingers. This sense of regret doesn't just manifest emotionally, it affects how he views his future relationships as well. The fact that you've moved on with such peace and self-assuredness can make him wonder if he'll ever find someone who could love him in the same way you did. It makes him question whether he can ever live up to the emotional connection he once had with you. Regret, in this case, becomes a teacher, forcing him to reflect on what went wrong, what he missed, and how he can avoid making the same mistakes in the future. But even as he reflects, he may realize that what's lost is now gone, and no amount of regret can bring it back. The weight of this regret can be profound, and it often lingers long after the initial shock of the breakup has worn off. It's not just about missing you, it's about missing the version of himself that was able to experience the love and support you brought into his life. Seeing you move on peacefully forces him to confront the truth that he may have been the one responsible for the end, and that realization can lead to a deep sense of sorrow and loss. The regret he feels is also compounded by the realization that you've healed, moved on, and become a better version of yourself, all without him. That's what makes it so difficult to bear. You didn't need him to become the person you are now, and that makes his regret sting even more. There's no one left to blame but himself. And as he watches you live your life with your newfound peace, it reinforces just how much he may have missed out on. Ultimately, the regret a man feels when he sees you move on peacefully is a reminder of everything he lost and everything he could have had if only he had appreciated it in the moment. It's a realization that can't be ignored, one that stays with him long after you've moved on. It's a quiet, constant companion, reminding him that in letting go of you, he may have let go of something irreplaceable, and no amount of time or distance can undo the regret of that realization. When a man sees that you've moved on peacefully, one of the most unexpected emotional responses that surfaces is a feeling of admiration. In many cases, he may not have recognized the full extent of your inner strength when you were together. The day-to-day grind of a relationship often makes people take each other for granted, and he may have never fully appreciated just how resilient you were or how much emotional depth you brought to the table. But once you've let go, once you've gracefully navigated the breakup and found your own peace, he's left in awe of your ability to move forward with dignity and strength. There's something powerful in seeing someone, especially someone you once shared such intimate moments with, stand tall and rebuild their life without relying on anyone else for validation or support. In that moment, when he sees you thriving and handling life without the turmoil of the past relationship hanging over you, he can't help but respect the way you've handled it. This admiration often comes with a deep sense of realization he underestimated you. He might not have known just how strong you were when you were together, but watching you move on without any drama, without bitterness, and without holding on to the past serves as a wake-up call for him. It forces him to reflect on the person he thought you were in the relationship and how much more there is to you than he ever gave you credit for. This admiration goes beyond just recognizing your strength. It also encompasses the respect for the way you've handled the situation. He sees that you haven't resorted to petty behavior, you haven't tried to make him jealous, and you haven't given in to the emotional turbulence that often follows a breakup. Instead, you've embraced a peaceful resolution, choosing to let go with love, not hate. You've chosen to be at peace with yourself and your past, and that radiates from you. This ability to let go of anger, hurt, or bitterness is something that commands respect. It's not easy to do, and it's not something many people can achieve, but you've done it effortlessly. The admiration he feels isn't just for the way you've handled the breakup itself, it's also a recognition of your emotional intelligence. Seeing you calmly and gracefully move on from the relationship without allowing it to derail your sense of self shows him that you've always had a higher level of emotional maturity than he did. When the relationship ended, you didn't fall apart or get swept away by the emotions of the moment. Instead, you chose to keep growing, keep improving, and keep finding your own happiness. For many men, This realization is jarring, especially if they had a role in the breakup. He may not have fully understood the strength you had during the relationship, but seeing you handle the end with such grace and poise makes him realize just how much he failed to see before. As he watches you thrive, there's also a deeper layer of admiration for the person you become after the relationship. He sees that you've learned, you've grown, and you've moved forward in ways that he might not have anticipated. Maybe you've picked up new hobbies focused on your career, traveled to places you've always wanted to visit, or deepened your relationships with friends and family. In many cases, he's left wondering if he could have been a part of that growth, if he could have been the one to help support you through it. But seeing you do it on your own, with confidence and poise, fills him with a bittersweet admiration. He sees you as someone who is more than just a partner. He sees you as someone who can hold her own, who is independent and self-sufficient, and who doesn't need anyone to define her worth. Admiration also comes from seeing that your life has continued to flourish without him. For a man who may have been used to feeling like he was a key part of your world, it can be a tough pill to swallow when he sees you thriving without his influence. It's a reminder that you were never dependent on him emotionally or physically. You were always capable of standing on your own. That realization can trigger a wave of respect because it forces him to acknowledge that you didn't need him to be happy. You were content in your own skin, and he now realizes that he was just one chapter in your story, not the entire book. This admiration can sometimes be accompanied by a quiet jealousy. He might wish he had been more appreciative of you during the relationship, or he may feel regretful that he didn't see the qualities in you that are now so apparent to him. However, despite any jealousy, the admiration is still there. Deep down, he can't help but respect the person you've become and the way you've carried yourself through the challenges of the past. Ultimately, the admiration a man feels when he sees you move on peacefully is a recognition of your strength, emotional maturity, and ability to find peace in the midst of heartbreak. It's a sign of respect for the person you were during the relationship and the person you've become since. He sees that you are capable, independent, and resilient, and it makes him appreciate you in ways he never did before. Even though it might be a humbling experience for him to witness your growth, it's one that often leaves a lasting impression. His admiration for you becomes a reminder of what he lost, and in that quiet respect, he begins to see just how much you brought to his life, both when you were together and after you've moved on. When a man sees that you've moved on peacefully, one of the most complex feelings that begins to surface is a deep sense of insecurity. It may not always be obvious, and it's not something that he's likely to express outright, but it's there, simmering beneath the surface. In many cases, when a breakup occurs, the person left behind might struggle with feelings of inadequacy, wondering if they were ever good enough for their partner. But when a man sees you moving on without him, not only thriving but finding peace and happiness in the process, those insecurities get amplified. It forces him to confront his own vulnerabilities, his own shortcomings, and his inability to let go or heal in the same way that you have. The reality is many men, especially in relationships where they might have been emotionally distant or unsure of their own feelings, struggle to accept that the person they thought they had a strong bond with is now able to move forward without them. It challenges their sense of self-worth, making them question whether they are enough, whether they are capable of providing what you needed, or whether they were ever truly able to contribute to your happiness. The more you seem at peace with the end of the relationship, the more it forces him to examine his own sense of self, and often this reflection leads to an uncomfortable realization that he wasn't as emotionally available or as present as he should have been. This, in turn, stirs a sense of insecurity about his ability to connect with others, especially when he sees you doing so well without him. For many men, this insecurity manifests as an almost existential crisis. It's not just about missing you or wishing the relationship hadn't ended. It's about questioning his value as a partner and his place in the world. When a man sees you moving on peacefully, it acts like a mirror showing him everything he didn't do in the relationship that could have kept you around. The fact that you've moved on, found happiness, and are thriving without the emotional baggage that often follows a breakup forces him to ask if he was ever good enough for you, or if he even knows how to give someone the love they deserve. One of the most painful aspects of this insecurity is that it doesn't always fade. While he might have initially thought he could move on and forget about everything, the longer he watches you living your life with ease, the harder it is for him to ignore the sense of inadequacy that grows inside of him. The realization that you found peace, whether through self-care, personal growth, or simply letting go of the past, highlights just how difficult it has been for him to do the same. He sees you embracing new experiences and thriving without him, and it serves as a reminder that you didn't need him to achieve your happiness, something he may have thought was true when the relationship ended. This realization stings, and it feeds into his insecurities about his own ability to find peace or make the right choices. As he watches you move forward, a sense of jealousy might also creep into his thoughts. It's not about wanting you back necessarily, but more about wishing he could be as content as you seem. He may see you doing well and wonder if he could ever find that same kind of peace, or if he will always be stuck in his own emotional turmoil. The fact that you've moved on so easily with grace and confidence triggers a deep-seated fear of inadequacy that many men struggle to confront. It's almost as if his sense of identity has been shaken by the simple fact that you're no longer emotionally dependent on him. It reminds him that, despite everything he may have thought he was offering the relationship, he failed to fulfill what you truly needed, and that leaves him with a lingering sense of insecurity. Moreover, this insecurity can make him question the future of his relationships with others. He may fear that no matter how much effort he puts into future connections, he won't be able to build something as meaningful as what he had with you. The idea that you moved on so peacefully can make him believe that maybe you had something special, something that he'll never be able to replicate. In essence, watching you move forward serves as a constant reminder of what he's missing out on, not just with you, but in his own life. His insecurity grows because he feels like he's failed not only in the past relationship, but also in his personal development. This emotional response isn't something that fades easily. The longer he watches you live your life without him, the deeper this sense of insecurity becomes. It impacts his ability to connect with others, and it often leads him to question his own worth. While he might try to mask these feelings, deep down there's a constant battle with his own self-doubt, a reminder that he didn't do enough to keep the relationship intact. He might begin to feel as though he's not capable of ever offering the kind of love and support that you deserve, which only intensifies his feelings of inadequacy. Ultimately, when a man sees you moving on peacefully, it forces him to confront his own weaknesses, his emotional baggage, and his fears of not being enough. The peaceful way in which you've let go, the strength you've shown in rebuilding your life, and the happiness you've found without him, all of this serves as a reminder of what he failed to give and what he now feels he lacks. It's a bitter pill to swallow, one that doesn't dissolve quickly, and it's a feeling that can linger long after the relationship has ended. In many ways, watching you move on peacefully is one of the most difficult experiences for a man to face, as it reflects all his insecurities, his regrets, and his unspoken fears about his own ability to grow and thrive in the future.